Welcome everyone to the Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Semi-Town Council Planning Committee meeting for August. Item 1, apologies received.
We've received apologies from Council Carter due to work commitments.
Item 2, declaration of interest. To receive any declaration of disclosable pecuniary interest for members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Councillor Murray?
Yeah, what was the first plan application on the agenda? I have plan application A. I know the person that's put the application in. I just have to declare that because I know the person, however, it's not going to affect my vote because I've got no gains from it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, similarly for planning application 25/00368, I live about 5 houses away from the property that I will be commenting and I will be voting.
Item 3, minutes of the Planning Committee. To approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on Monday the 14th of July 2020 and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. Attachment 1.
Item 6C, planning application 25/0665, land north-east side of Deal Road, Sandwich, Charlie Tango 13-0 Yankee. I sent apologies for this meeting due to work commitments, and Councillor Gray agreed to act as my substitute. Councillor Black was also attending as a substitute for Councillor Wiles and had asked for and been granted special dispensation to speak on this application. Whilst I was not present at the meeting in person, I did watch the recording of the meeting and noted that between 21 minutes and 23 minutes on the YouTube recording, Councillor Black was in receipt of what I consider to be a tirade of verbal abuse from the chair. Councillor Black made attempts to question the access and exit routes for the development. I observed that Councillor Black spoke calmly throughout the duration of the debate, and I had made some notes of the remarks coming from the chair, but I'd leave people to watch the video themselves, recording themselves, sorry. The chair completely misunderstands how a planning committee is supposed to work if he believes that debate should not take place, as without such debate, this committee could potentially be brought into disrepute by accusations of predetermination. The chair is responsible for ensuring that the meeting is conducted in a professional manner, and the failure to do so at the meeting held on the 14th of July leads me to conclude, due to my lack of confidence in the chair, I have no option other than to resign my membership of this committee with immediate effect. I regret that I have had to make this decision. I cannot just sit back and do nothing when one of my fellow councillors is treated with such an appalling level of disrespect.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that, you wasn't here, and you, anyway, thank you for your...
As I said, I resigned from this committee.
Well, that's okay, cheerio.
Is the sound on?
Yeah. Rather unfortunate, you could have talked me outside prior to the meeting, but that's just 3 years. I don't think you acted unfairly. We had a discussion, I think Councillor Black spoke twice, and then we had someone wanted to approve it a second, and we're going to the vote, and they wanted to speak again, so I said we're going to the vote. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, the licensing part of last month's meeting.
Yeah.
So it says to resolve that the licence application for the old pharmacy at King Street was noted. Now, I do believe that we are a consultee regarding is it not for licensing?
No.
If that's the case, then what I'd like possible, because I did say it before, is having licensing taken away and street furniture taken away if we have no say in it. So there's no point having it on the agenda.
I do remember, but I think it was agreed that it was actually useful to have it on there for information. And I think because you raised that point, and then that's what was agreed, that is that it would stay on there so that members could note it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the thing, it was a discussion we had, it was probably about 4 months ago, so it was about having visibility, and whilst we're not consultees, if any establishment around here has a licence for doing that, it was just us being aware of that.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Any other matters arising?
I'd like to propose those minutes.
Yep.
Second.
All in favour? Item 4, public participation. A 20-minute session is set aside for members of the public to make representations of meeting in respect of the business on the agenda. Individual representation should not exceed 5 minutes. Written notice of the desire to exercise the right to speak, together with the topic to address, must be given to the town clerk at least 4 hours in advance of the meeting.
We have had one request to speak, and we have Ivan Danrenzio, and he is here to speak on application 25/00368.
Could you check for the volume that's definitely not on? I've just checked myself.
So it's saying it's working here, and the mute button isn't on. Would you like me to pause the meeting and reconnect?
It's chair's call.
Just pause the meeting, check the sound.
Okay, just give me a second, please. See, it was off. Give me 2 seconds, I just need to create a motion. Are we going live again?
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors.
Oh, just hold on, sorry, I beg your pardon, just check. Do you want to check?
Go for it.
Okay, it seems like it's
Okay.
working on my side.
Can you hear me okay? On the screen?
I'm just waiting. No.
Let's carry on without it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant, who is a long-standing member of the community who's had association with Sandwich since the 1980s. The application that we put forward represents an opportunity to develop family-sized dwellings within the town wall boundaries on a previously developed brownfield site. We've received positive pre-application advice from Dover District Council supporting the principle of residential development on the site. Proposed site sets massing away from St Mary's Church with gaps in between the buildings, following the pattern of development of the wharf-type buildings towards the north of Strand Street. The area was a former wharf and references the Gessling Mill in massing and materials. We know that the 1973 Sandwich Plan for Conservation sets eaves heights, etc., to the numbers 41 and 45 of Strand Street, but we would like to note that policy MAP 3 supports from 1973 supports higher development to wharf areas to the north of Strand Street, and actually at the time they also supported a multi-storey car park, so thank God they didn't build that. Strand Street has a large variation in the sizes of properties, from larger grand family houses down to smaller timber framed jetty buildings. Unfortunately, we're constrained with certain new regulations such as flood risk, so hence why the ground floor is 1.2 metres above ground level, and national space standards that set out larger dwellings. The site is a former wharf, and so we feel that a suburban pattern of development would be incorrect, hence why we're proposing a walk-type building. Also, we received comments from members of the public that they're worried about car park access, and we'd like to highlight that actually Dover District Council recommended that we remove all parking from the scheme, and so it's expected that residents would use permits from the local car parking to the west. And hopefully, we're hoping that members and councillors would help support the scheme. Thank you.
So I think the plot of land there is land that should be developed for housing. So to that point, I understand one application has been put in, but the application itself, in my view, doesn't meet a number of material considerations that should be taken into account for this type of development. So first of all, layout and density. So the height of the flats will overshadow the Grade 1 listed St Mary's Arts Centre opposite, and it will exceed the eaves of other properties close by, particularly 46A. The number of properties, 7, in my view, is overdevelopment of a relatively small area of land, which is 959 square metres. Then another material consideration is appearance, effect on the street, whether it's a specially designated area, which it is as a conservation area, and there are listed buildings and ancient monuments close by. So the oldest inhabitant houses in Sandwich are located close by, and the building materials proposed for this development are predominantly not in keeping with the appearance of the street. The block of flats also includes a flat roof structure, which is not usually acceptable to any new construction in the conservation area. This is one of the narrowest parts of Strand Street, and development will have a significant impact of a negative nature on the appearance of the street. Overlooking a loss of privacy, there's possibly the property opposite number 59 may well be affected because there is a penthouse included in the development that should, and I would expect, would have a view across to their property. Then it's been mentioned that the parking spaces aren't included, but the application we've got in front of us does include 5 parking spaces, so I'm commenting against that. The only access could be direct from Strand Street on what is a narrow and to some extent a blind corner, with a heavy number of pedestrians stopping at Gaze and Salt's car park, tourists walking into the town, and also crossing from the other side of the road because the pavement finishes at St Mary's Centre. It is an area of risk in terms of vehicles exiting and entering the development. Mentioned already is about the risk of flooding. Obviously, additional housing in the area will have to be addressed in terms of flood risk 2 and 3 zones assigned to that area. And there's also potential loss of trees. Now, the trees may not be of particularly great nature, but certainly the tree preservation officer will need to have a look at that from DDC's perspective. And then finally, in terms of material considerations, for me, the cumulative impact of the whole development, the issues about the nature of it in terms of its location, I think we should be objecting against this. It's the wrong solution, but the right idea, so I can't support it.
I remember an application about, 20 years ago, all ultra-modern flats, still structured as flat roofs, and that was not accepted. This one's come along, but it's still got a flat roof, and it's really quite a large structure, isn't it? I mean, we've got a large structure in the old brewery, but I mean, that's got, different roof standards and things, so I don't know why they couldn't have put eaves on the dormer windows or something, I just don't like it. It's so dominant, isn't it? If you're on that side of the river, and you come around, it's such a dominant street of flats. And I was looking at one of the letters, one of the letters from Clive Alexander, the former conservation of Dover District Council, and he said the scheme is contrary to section 66/1 and 72 of the Planning Listed Buildings and Conservation Areas Act 1990 requirement in relation to it. So he says it doesn't. I know that's changed, but I mean, I agree with what he says because I think it's I don't like it at all. The houses look nice, it's just that block of flats. And I can't see why they're not putting any parking in. I mean, that's all in part, so that's maybe 9, 8, 2, that's 18 cars, isn't it? It could be. You didn't expect 1.5, 2 cars to put that in these days, don't you? That's the ones.
Yeah, Chair, would it be possible to ask the applicant if they took pre-application advice from the planning officers?
Yeah, I think they have.
And what was their response to this scheme?
The scheme was altered from what was submitted to pre-application, which is relatively normal. But the main feedback was principle of development of residential dwellings on the site, and then it was just a case of preference for no car parking on the site because it's a conservation area.
I mean, I support the principle of developing the site. Clearly, it's an untidy site. It's an important site within the conservation area. It was formerly a boatyard or various boat-related buildings. But I have to say, this is a great scheme, a high-quality scheme if it was in the suburbs of Cambridge or somewhere like that. But for this site, it's completely inappropriate. The scale and mass of it is much too large. The flat roof, there are almost no flat roofs in that area of Sandwich, in the conservation area, certainly not in a modern type block. I mean, it's no good talking about Ainsley Court because I think that's not a particularly high quality scheme in itself, so we have to try and go for quality. The parking rate, there's up to 40 odd bed spaces here, which I think is an overdevelopment of that site, potentially over 40 bed spaces. The parking arrangements, this is a notorious pinch point within Sandwich, where cars are often having to back up or wait for other cars to come. And to have 3 parking spaces directly onto the road with vehicles reversing in or reversing out, as the case may be, would make things even worse at that point. So I can't understand why parking isn't at the rear. Also, that whole area of Sandwich is generally the properties are on the curtilage of the road and not set back in this way like a suburban scheme. On top of that, there doesn't seem to be any parking associated with the flats at all. So I take the point they could park in Gays and Salts, but more likely they'll park in surrounding roads and add to the pressure on parking generally. So overall my view is it's a great scheme elsewhere, but not for this site. And I think we should strongly oppose it.
So you're going to... Oh, sorry.
Yes, I think the parking issue is a big one because people either got to back out of those bays or back in, and it's likely to disrupt the traffic on Strand Street while they're doing that because it is very narrow there. I note also that there is no vehicle access to the flats. So anyone making a delivery to the flats has got to park on the street to do so, because there's only pedestrian access with a bicycle to the actual building. The buildings, to my mind, take up too much space on the site. The site is not big enough to accommodate the 3 houses and the proper flats. And the fact that it has to be raised up off the ground level because of the flood risk accentuates the height, because you've then got 4 stories on top of that 1.2 metres. It seems to me that it would be much better if the access was from the Gays and Salts car park entrance, that end of the property. And I would commend the comments made by Charlotte Robinson in the public comments which were associated with this application. She seems to sum everything up very well.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to propose that we do strongly object to the planning application based on the material considerations that have been outlined.
Can you say that we reject the application? Okay. Thank you. Strongly reject. Item B. Item planning application 25/00. No. Yeah. Oh, it's very good. No, you can go in there below.
Yeah.
Thank you. planning application 25/00807, proposal, change of use of first floor from retail to residential to create a first and second floor flat, and insertion of new rear door to replace a window, location 8 Market Street, Sound, CT30 9DA. I think it matches the building next to it, wouldn't it?
This is the old bridal
Yeah.
shop. I wasn't aware the first floor was retail.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah.
It's not clear from the plans that the access to the first floor comes from the back of the property, so I'm not sure what changes are being made, but certainly this would be in accordance with the local plan generally. So.
Yes, I was going to say, so in terms of what's proposed here, it includes a separate and dedicated entrance to the flat and a utility room on the ground floor that serves the flat. So the local plan stipulates that changes from residential to commercial is not allowed on the ground floor of properties in the primary shopping area, which this is.
Yeah.
So is it by stealth? I don't know, but...
Well, that was my concern. I couldn't quite make that out from the plans, but if that's the case, then
Yes.
clearly this is in breach of the local plan
Yeah.
because they're using a bit of the ground floor
for upstairs.
to associate with the upstairs. So it's a loss of retail.
Yeah.
Retail space is not just the space, it's the toilets and the storerooms that go with it. So if that's being lost, then this is a breach of the local plan requirement.
Yes, so. No one else? Okay, so do we have a propose that we reject this application?
I propose,
Yeah.
based on the breach of the local
We should
plan,
have-
that resident retail, ground floor retail within the primary shopping area should not be lost.
Encroaching on it.
I'll just comment on this. In the event that we refuse that, and that makes the property unusable, aren't we risking, almost as a knock-on, that property then sitting there potentially empty? Because it could well be that renting out the upstairs, the two upstairs floors as flats, enables the ground floor to continue financially as a shop, because what we're seeing is these shops really struggling to survive, and they just need to basically have any means of income that's possible. That's just throwing that in as a...
Just to answer to Councillor Mallett's question, it was empty, it was a bridal shop and it was remained empty, it's up for sale. However, it's currently being rented for a 6-month lease for a pop-up shop at the moment. And they currently, I think they're allowed to stay there until further notice, I'm not sure, 6 months at least. But yeah, I am with Councillor Wiles on this, I'm afraid. I don't like commercial buildings being turned into residential, especially in Market Street or King Street. So that's my opinion.
We've got a proposal. Would you like to second that?
I'll second Councillor
Will we pay
Wiles.
that we reject this proposal? Encroaching on the retail area, project.
Yeah.
Item 5C, planning application reference 25/00808, proposal, replacement of window with door to rear elevation, removal of partition to first floor and installation of new partition to all floors, blocking of opening to second floor, location 8 Market Street, Sound, CT30. This is most probably for conservation as well, so it's the same again.
Principle.
Yeah.
So you're happy
So-
with the same proposal? as
Yeah,
the-
I'm second.
Yeah.
Second.
And the same again,
Okay, thank you. Item D, planning application 25/00304, proposal to crown reduce the house side of canopy by 2 metres and reshape one holly T1. The subject of tree preservation order number 1 of 1967, location Goals Way, 35 Maxwell Sound, CT30 9AU.
I'd like to just propose that we don't raise any objections regards this. The photograph tells us, every picture tells a story, I suppose.
It's clear that there is an established planning process for people who want to do work on protected trees. There's another application I think will be coming for the next meeting, of a similar nature. But what happens though if the tree is owned by the district council? I'm aware that the district council have been putting numbers on trees along the Rope Walk and Millwall and Bulwark, proposing to possibly fell some and lob others. Yet we're not consulted on that.
No.
Should we not be consulted?
I think it's only when they're rotten. That one, that sycamore, that's rotten, isn't it? Yeah. This is on private property, I think, as well.
Yes, but does it make any difference if it's public property? Should there not be a consultation in the same way?
So on the trees that are along the butts, I did inquire about those direct with Dover District Council, and they undertook a survey, as they do regularly, of trees in that area. They've identified, I think, a couple that need to be removed. I'm not defending that. That is their assessment using a private experienced contractor. Why doesn't it come here? Well, in effect, what we're getting here is applications from the wider public. That goes through the process. That's why it comes here. Dover District Council will have their own processes, which doesn't include ourselves as consultees.
But the proposal is coming from a different department of the district council, isn't it?
We don't get anything from Dover District Council on any form of applications. What I would suggest, Peter, if you've got an issue, you should really write to them direct to ask why it wouldn't go through the planning process.
I think what's happened is a private house, and someone's put a tree there years ago, and it's just grown too big. Basically, it's in the corner.
9 times out of 10, BBC only work on trees unless there's a safety issue. Hence why they've done the one down the quayside by the new playground, because it was split in half after the storm and it was dangerous. Yeah, so they're normally times only
They've
work.
done them on the bulwarks, all them sycamores,
That's
they're
it,
stone as well.
Because
Just
they're
all them out,
dangerous.
they've just grown in the last 30 years, they should never have been there at all.
Yes, but we're not aware of what we're planning to do, are we?
No.
No, we never are. If it's a safety issue, BBC won't notify the us.
No.
So we've got a proposal, really.
I'm happy to propose that it's.
All in favour that we,
Well, just raise no objection to it. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item E, planning application, reference 25/00804, proposal erection of a single storey rear extension and alterations to windows, door to side elevation, existing conservatory to be demolished, location 23 Dover Road, Sam, City 13 0PS.
This looked fairly innocuous to me, I would
Yeah.
support it, it's just an extension
Within almost the
within the
same.
curtilage of the property.
Yeah.
I'd like to second it.
Isn't that, okay. Anyone else? All in favour that we
Support.
support the proposal? Okay. Planning application 25/00860, proposed extension of width of existing access to a total of 4.5 metres, location 53 Polders Garden, Sandstead, CT 130AJ. It's just that, I think they've got already one width and then they get one car, and I think it's just going to take the fence down and just stick it. So I'll propose that.
Second it.
Yeah. Right. All in favour? Lovely, thank you. Item G, planning application 25/00873, proposal erection of 2 garage bays, location unit 51 to 52, Sandwich Industrial Estate, Ramsgate Road, Sandwich, CT 139LY. I remember that years ago, that was a fiberglass boat builders there, at Brian Corey's, and then that, I think I went back, and then it was dumped, there was loads of old, ship moulds there, boat moulds, and then, so it happened, and then someone had to clear it all away, and now, so it's really, it's just brownfield sites, isn't it? So I think, and it's going to be in jobs as well, Councillor Murray.
Yeah, it's in the industrial estate, so it's not really have an impact to the town, is it? And it's all business, so I'll propose, absolutely propose.
Basically, it's just more of the same.
Yeah,
Adding something same, in the
Yeah.
same style.
Yeah.
I mean, we can even to say no objections.
No objection, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, in favour of that. Thank you.
Sorry, I know it's.
Proposing no objection.
No, yeah.
Seconding.
Mine, yeah.
Yeah.
Item 6, planning enforcement meeting, DDC and KLLC. Members to compile and raise any questions concerning or suggestions regarding how planning enforcement is currently managed and delivered in Dover. These will be shared with the STC representatives attending the upcoming KLC meeting with DDC.
Well, one of them's.
My suggestion would be, it would be nice to have some.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to have some debate, wouldn't it? Yeah.
My opinion would be is DDC, the lack of communication DDC has with us especially is diabolical. Regarding especially with planning, I mean how many years, some of us have been here 3-4 years now and we're trying to sort out a certain issue in the town and we're still not being listened to, so.
Yeah, so my observations, one is to improve communication, so when something's happening, we improve communications and reporting the progress and the outcomes. That's what we don't know, we just go as deadly quiet. And then just generally to improve the engagement with the town council, so we don't have any understanding of their strategy or any issues in our regards resources or whatever it is that's impacting their ability to deliver or not.
It would be quite nice actually to know whether they took any notice of our, what we say in this meeting about planning applications, because there doesn't seem to be any evidence to that at all.
Well, it's even things like the trees being cut down in that sycamore. I mean, we knew the bulwarks wanted clean up, because that was one of our suggestions, wasn't it? Because it was roots were spreading the sun.
That's the point, that we're elected representatives, we're often contacted by residents asking what's going on with Fellowship Walk or the lines, etc. And we just don't get any response or feedback.
It's with me as well. We live in this town. We live and breathe this town. We're here most of the time. We live and work here. So regardless of the enforcement team at DDC, some of them don't know if they do or not, but they don't live here. We know how the town works and how it is, and we feel that we are not listened to. That's my personal opinion.
Sorry, if you recall, Chair, we've been asking for some years for the director or a senior officer to come to this meeting. They came and met you 4 or 5 months ago, I think.
Yeah.
But have we had any come back from that meeting?
Oh, was this when the meeting with the head of planning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't planning
That wasn't
enforcement,
enforcement.
this is specific planning about
But
enforcement.
generally about planning issues, but we've had nothing.
A classic is the. Oh, I'm sorry. After you.
I would just observe that I think it's very good that you're collaborating with the other local councils.
Yeah.
And I think you can achieve more by doing it collectively with the other parishes than by just trying to do something on your own.
I mean, our DDC councillors that represent standards, they get their neck from us as much as anybody else, because we've been trying to fight in our corner to get the communication from enforcement, but they hit the brick wall sometimes as well.
It'd be nice to be involved in the discussion. It's like that bus stop down there. We weren't involved in that at all, was we?
Not yet.
And the example that we just had with the 4 properties being built, had there been liaison with us at the very beginning, all the cost of planning could have been saved, because that would have cost, there would be a cost getting to this stage. We could have said right at the very beginning, everything that all the points we made, including, why are they saying to, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 families, park your cars, get residence parking, when there's plenty of people who can't get residence parking because there's not enough. So it's nonsense.
No, that's the only thing. I don't know with this, we just dealt with the officers. We really want the district council calling for discussion of planning, don't we? We don't want to just be decided by the planning office, especially if they've been already talking to them.
We have two big enforcement cases going on within the town at the moment, and it just, as I said, my personal opinion is that we are all 16 of us, including our district councillors as well, shouting about certain 2 issues we have, and I just feel that we are just not listened to. We're just washed under the carpet. That's my.
I think the one that gets me is that barn on the Ash Road that was passed by the officers that didn't even come to the council. Opposite White Mill. They asked for a barn. They said, "Oh yeah, take the cost of the barn, put it there."
There's another building up there.
Yeah. So we need to be talking, in the conversation, don't we?
Yeah, and it's counterproductive because actually by not keeping us informed, so a good example was when Fellowship Walk had the recent set of issues, because they didn't talk, what happened was multiple councillors, multiple residents were sending emails, etc., and actually they ended up having a stock answer that came back, if I recall rightly. But that isn't serving the community. You know, if they'd given an update, that could have been shared quite widely in terms of where it was. And even if the update was, we can't say anything for now, then that would have been something that we just didn't get a response.
So we've got any questions, we ask Councillor Mallet, can I raise them up?
Which particular question?
But planning, it says a member to compile and raise any questions concerning or suggestions regarding planning enforcement.
Even, you know, it's Councillor Carter and Councillor Morehouse.
Okay. If you're happy, I will summarise everything that we discussed.
Is this sent to both of them? I'm sure one of them will
Excuse
go.
me, Chair. Does Dover actually have a policy on retrospective planning commission? Because that's what happens here. People start these developments, they go ahead, we all sit here and tap and the rest of it, and then nothing happens whatsoever.
If it
I
is,
just wondered if there is a real policy from Dover
if
saying that these people should be stopped from doing this.
if there is, it's non-existent.
No, we have asked that before, and the answer is a retrospective planning application. Whilst we might all frown on it, you have to look at it as a planning application. So there is no black mark for it being retrospective.
But sometimes they say it's a safety issue, you know, like that old barn at the King's Arms, you know, that was falling down, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then we had the retrospective, wasn't it, demolition, it wasn't terrible. Okay? Okay. Item 7, withdrawn planning application. To receive and note the withdrawn planning application, please note none to consider at the time of issuing this agenda. Item 8, planning decision. To receive and note latest decision taken by Dover District Council on new planning applications.
Close this section.
Couple of points on that. One is on the agenda paper, in the case of Puttock Down, 108 Whitneyspur Road, there's no decision announced.
Oh, apologies.
And the other one is, the one above that, about the root tuning of the tree. What is granting advertising consent?
I did check, and that is the code that they provided. Because I didn't know it, because it usually is abbreviated, and then I put them out for, and I did
So they're
check.
agreeing that somebody can advertise.
They want to roots, prune the roots.
Yeah.
They're worried about the boundary
I
wall,
can
aren't
query that, I can take that back.
Yeah.
It may be an error in coding
Yes.
on it.
they? So someone else has put a tree too close to a wall. Okay. So we've never done that in the past, haven't we? Item 9, street furniture applications. Receive and consider any application made to DDC in relation to a street furniture consent application under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provision Act 1982. Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982, street furniture consent. Please note, none to consider at time of issuance agenda. Item 10, licensing. To consider and note any licensing notices to Sandwich. Please note, none to consider at the time of issuing this agenda. Item 11, to consider any enforcement notices issued to Dover District. Please note, none to the time of issuing this agenda. Item 12, correspondence. To receive and consider correspondence related to planning matters, including notification of appeals against refusal of planning application. Please note, none to consider the time of issuing this agenda. Item 13, verbal update on Dover District Councillors on matters related to planning. Unfortunately, okay. Item 14, date of next planning committee meeting, 15th of September 2025. Thank you all for attending.